One, keep your body weight in a healthy spot. BMI is still relevant. People hate to hear it, but it is. If you're larger and you're like, "Whoa, I just have a lot of muscle, that's why my BMI is high." Okay, good. Can you look in the mirror? Can you see definition in your stomach?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't, then BMI still applies to you. Because if you have an elevated BMI, which I do, you need to be about sub 15% body fat for it to even matter. Otherwise, it's just too much weight in your body. So BMI, being in a great place, number one. Two, are you exercising on a regular basis? Okay, three, are you eating fiber? And then four, watching for refined sugar. And refined sugar, but outside of diabetes and gut health, if you equate sugar to calories, it does not have an increase in obesity. So people think sugar is going to make you fat. That's not really the concern. Sugar you need to be mindful of because of diabetes, but it also does affect gut health. So those are four real takeaways that I would give you for gut health.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. If you're watching, you'll notice we have the coolest background we've had since we started the show, so I'm really excited to be here. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your show notes from. Also, check out the notes. There's a discount code for picking up a copy of Break Barriers or Audacious. Today's guest is a very special guest. I have Jacob Zemer. His title says performance coach, but I know that you are a lot more than that. And so just to kick things off, thank you for joining me, Jacob.
Thank you, Bishoy. Thanks for having me. And then also thank you to my friend Shreg, whose content studio this is and who's allowing us to use it. It's located in Westport, Connecticut, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel super privileged to be here.
Cool.
I'm grateful for the connection. And I'm just so thankful for you coming on.
Yeah, dude.
I've definitely had you penciled in as someone that I've been wanting to bring on for a while for multiple reasons. Of course, I want to hit up on your journey as a performance coach.
Yeah.
You're all over social media. You've been very influential, not only to myself, but many people in the fitness community.
Thank you.
All around New York and now all over, really.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you've got a personal story that's just very, very touching and inspirational.
Thank you.
And the cool thing for the listeners, which Jacob and I picked up on, is we've crossed paths.
Yeah.
We went to college together. We
Yeah.
didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And so that makes this a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, why don't you just give us a quick little background about where life kicked off for you, where you grew up, just so the audience becomes a little bit more familiar with you.
Sure. So my name is Jacob Zemer. My mom was 16 years old, Gloria Zemer, and my dad did not have very much interest in me. My dad was, I think, about 13 years older than her. He was, 7 years older than her. He was 23 and she was 16. So he was a little embarrassed about the situation and just did not have very much interest in being a parent. And life growing up was a little difficult because of that by itself. It was a small town, and then add to it the fact that we did not have money growing up. And so growing up, I would say I was definitely had a lot of anxiety. I was very ADD, wasn't a great student, and I really didn't find something that I really fit in with until I turned about 14. And I went to the YMCA. We were already members. We had a family membership. And I went into the gym room and I saw these guys. There was one guy in particular, very muscular. He drove a Dodge Viper. And I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And in my, this is obviously an adolescent brain. In my dream world, I was going to have like a really cool car and be jacked. And I started going to the gym, even though I was very intimidated to do so. My first couple of memories, I was quite skinny until puberty hit. And I remember going to the gym and being really embarrassed about what I could bench press. And my friend, Chris Tom, he was very into it. He was jacked. And I said to Chris, Chris, can you, show me how to work out? And he was kind of like, he was a couple grades older than I was. And he's like, and I kept bothering him. And he said, if you clean up after us, I'll basically essentially show you how to work out. And we did. We worked out that whole summer together. And I saw him actually years later. I'm from a very small town, about 959 people. I saw him years later and he actually was like, dude, he's like, you stuck with this. He's like, it's crazy. He's like, I follow you online. It's really impressive to see. So
talk to me about what you started to learn about yourself, throughout that first year in the gym, right? You talk about some of the adversity you faced as a child. You talk about some of your insecurities.
Yeah.
Talk to me about where the confidence started to build from and why you even continued to show up.
Yeah, it's so funny because usually people do things that they're good at, and I was not inherently good at weight training. I always had strong legs. I was always very able to press, do the leg press, squat, things like that. I was a very good deadlifter. But I was like, when I would go to work out and do bench press, I remember one time I was at the gym and there was a girl who was doing bench press with her boyfriend. They were a little older than I was, but not significantly. And I remember she was very equivalent in weight, that I was using. And I was like, okay, well, today I'm going to use dumbbells, so I feel better about myself. I think the biggest thing that I learned over time from it was showing up is the most important thing. Consistency is the most important thing. We talked about it off camera for a minute, but there are people who have, most people, 90% of people have just average genetics. They're just in any capacity. So like 90% of people have average intelligence, 90% of people have average ability to build muscle or, are average runners. And you have those outliners on both sides of the tail. And there's like 5% here on one side and 5% on the other, or roughly 5% on either side. And the thing is that I would say now, looking at myself, I have very good genetics. I don't have once in a lifetime or, 1 in a million genetics, but I have very good genetics. But what served me the most in life is I just simply have just stuck with things. Even I know somebody as well from college and started a fitness account, and she's been on for like 3 months. She already has 10,000 followers. It took me 2 years to get 10,000 followers. So, for me, I just think, the thing I have always done, and even my mom will say it about me, is I don't give up. And so I think that's more than anything what's taught me, what I've learned from weight training. Because if you think that you're going to put 3 pounds of muscle on in a month, go look at a family pack of chicken with 3 pounds in it, right? And then imagine what your arms would look like if you put a chicken breast on both of your biceps. You will train for 5 years and will not put on a pound in each of your arms. Like, it is a very, very, very slow process. And so I think that really taught me just overall in life how successful you can be at something by simply continuing to do it.
It takes a certain mindset to continue showing up. And if I think about where you are now and I think about where you were back then, I can only imagine what you've learned over the course of those years. But I keep going back to, the 14-year-old version of you, and yeah. I want to get at where the mindset came from. Was it maybe, your mother's influence on you as a child? The fact that she was always there for you? Yeah. Was it the fact that, because of your insecurities as a child, you were really a lone wolf at times?
Yeah, I was definitely a lone wolf.
Yeah, talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely was a lone wolf. I still probably am a lone wolf, which is kind of hilarious. I mean, I'm very, very tight with Allie. I love my dog. And even my friends will tell you that I have a handful of friends. I have a separate phone when I'm out to dinner or when I'm on vacation that I have like 10 people on that phone. Yeah. That's it. Only 10 people have that phone number. That's awesome. So that's really like the line in the sand. Like, do you know that number or do you not have that number? Yeah. And that doesn't mean I'm not close with some of the people. Sure. Some of my clients I'm very close with. You like some of the people
on the other phone.
Yes, 100%. Some of them are clients and I just don't have them on there because I don't want work.
You don't want to work in pleasure,
even though they're dear, dear friends.
Fair.
But I really still am very much a lone wolf. Yeah. I would say the biggest thing, again, like just not giving up and continuing to be consistent. If I had to say where that came from, I think it came out of necessity.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any other option.
Okay.
I mean, I was ADD, I was mildly dyslexic. My sister was born with Angelman syndrome, which is severe retardation. My mom had a GED. I had 4 younger sisters, so now there's 5 of us. My stepdad was a lovely man, very hard work ethic. That he definitely gave me as well. He had a very hard work ethic. But I don't know if there were a lot of other opportunities other than you'd better put some effort in. And I would say, it's so funny when I see people now and I meet somebody, they came up to me and they were like, we were talking for a minute. And he's like, I have seen you multiple times. It was before we bought our house. He saw me at a nice apartment complex. And he said, I've seen you multiple times. And he's like, I never would have guessed that you were like this. The way you look, the way you dress, the car you drive. He's like, I thought you came from money.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny now, like how people interpret me. It's why a lot of times when I start off, on podcasts or speaking events, I tell people like, no, I'm from middle of America, nowhere, because you have to humanize it before you say like, hey, I'm going to push you to go do things that you're not comfortable with doing. But I think it was out of necessity. I don't think there was any other option for me. If I didn't, buckle down and do these things, I would be in a trailer park somewhere. So,
Absolutely. I think about you talking about the guy with the Dodge Viper, and I think about you right now. And all I can think about is what you manifested over the years, little to your own knowledge, probably at the time, right?
Yeah.
And there was different phases throughout. And you talk about your social personality.
Yeah.
I watch your videos and I love your content, and I learn so much from your content. Your Costco videos, right? Like something as simple as going to Costco
People love
and
those
like
videos.
going through all the protein-packed items in Costco. Someone like me, who over the last couple of years has started to really focus on strength training as an endurance athlete, I take what you say to heart.
Yeah.
But also someone like me who's been building a platform and who personally, for the audience out there, I don't enjoy content creation.
Yep.
I don't enjoy the social media aspect of
Yep.
it. I can tell you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, but it's so authentic. And that's why I keep coming back.
Yeah.
And so, again, 14-year-old you, did you ever think you'd be in front of as many cameras as you
I
are
didn't
today?
think I would. I mean, honestly, if I have really manifested my life. I don't know if you've ever seen Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
I really do kind of think, I try not to get too granola.
Yeah.
Because day to day, I'm a very practical person, and I'm very much an purist. But I think about that movie a lot. I mean, I basically got the prom queen. I got the girl that I always wanted to be with.
Yeah.
We were apart for a little bit, and we got back together. That's always been the person that was, for me, the person I wanted to be with. We have just a beautiful house, cool cars. I mean, we have, I look the way I want. I've always dreamed of looking. I mean, without, sounding obnoxious, this is what I get paid to do. So that's why I'm in the shape I'm in. But I mean, basically every time I take off my shirt in a locker room, somebody asks me what I do for a living or how I do this or how do I look the way I do or gives me some sort of compliment.
Yeah.
The social media presence. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to there's a lot of nonsense on social media. And I actually think social media has kind of ruined the world, but I always joke and say it's made my life better. And there's a lot of benefits to social media on so many levels, just in terms of like opportunities or the ability to go to things or discounts on things or people always wanting to send you things or deals and things like that. And I even really stay away from it. I don't even totally monetize it. I stay away from probably, I'd say, not kidding, 99% of the brand deals that I get handed, I say no to. But it's just allowed me to grow a massive business off it. So no, I definitely, and even when I look back, it's so interesting. I look back at that little kid, and I have so much compassion for him. And even when I look back at that kid who, after graduating college, I'm a typical entrepreneur. I really struggled with my career after college, and I really look back at that kid, and I wish I could give him a hug. I'm still probably very hard on myself. I am very hard on myself, and I can be very hard on people around me. But I also think that's why they hire me all the time, because I push people to be their best self, and I hold people to a very high standard.
And it's like you said earlier, it all starts with humanizing.
Yes.
And again, to the audience out there, you're a big dude.
Yeah.
There's every reason to be intimidated by you, right?
Yeah.
But when you have a conversation,
It
you
does change
realize,
that.
and I'm sure Allie will say this about you.
Yeah.
She probably thinks you're a big teddy bear.
Yes.
I mean, that's my guess at least.
Yes. She'll tell you I'm a Sour Patch.
Yeah.
I can be tough, and then I can be very sweet.
Fair enough. Talk to me about the transition, right, from being a fitness enthusiast to being a fitness professional, right?
Sure.
You talk about your love for fitness all throughout, your teenage and college years. And did you ever envision this? Like, what would you be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I did not envision doing this as a career. I loved going to the gym. I say this all the time to people. Just because you love fitness does not mean that you're meant to do it as a career. I always use this example, so it's a little crude, but it's like porn. Just because you enjoy porn does not mean you're meant to be professional in the industry. So,
Fair.
and I say that more because it's provocative and people
Fair.
laugh, but it's also very true. Like you assume because you like going to the gym for an hour and 15 minutes, that's all about you.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with client, it is all about the clients. I have had such a successful career at this because I understand it's about the client and because I also care about the client. Now, you could say, okay, I'm a bit of an asshole and that's just my temperament. Like even I was saying, Allie says I'm a Sour Patch. But the truth is when somebody first comes in, I don't know them from a hole in the wall. So how do I care about that person? I don't know that person out, but I care about fitness and I care about their goals. So if somebody comes in and they say, hey, I'm 50 pounds overweight, my wife's still, very good shape, I'm very busy, I'm at a hedge fund, I'm at a P, whatever they're doing, and I'm I'm a business owner, and they talk to me, if you're gonna work with me, you'd better fucking take seriously what we are doing.
Yeah.
And so I care very much that we accomplish what you're set out to. And then through the course of that, over the course of months, you begin to care about the person. You begin to care about the person's life. Like I have some early videos where I tell people very clearly, like, I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
And it really is the truth. Like I'm not your friend. I'm not there to be your friend.
Yeah.
But you grow to care about the person first by caring about the goal. It's almost like the person's incidental.
Yep.
When you first come in to see me, you're just incidental, but you losing those 20 pounds, that is very serious to me. And you taking what I do for a living very serious is of the utmost, or you shouldn't be there. And if you don't take it seriously, one, you're not going to last, or two, I'm going to cut you, or it's just, we're going to drift off anyhow. And I'm going to be fine because there's 7 people on a wait list right now for coaching anyhow. I'm booked in training for, I don't even remember how long. So if you don't take it seriously, I'm going to find somebody else who will. That's the biggest thing I would say is what has made me successful is the caring. But I would warn people, just because you care about yourself and you like working out does not translate to a career.
Talk to us, just so the audience has some insight about the difference of working with, someone who walks into the gym and says, I want to lose 20 pounds versus walking with some of these execs and these high profile people that you're now working with. What are some of the things that you've learned?
Yeah, so I guess even to just finish off our last question as well about like the difference between those things and how I transitioned, I didn't want to do it originally because I was afraid I was going to be poor. So I was really like, I don't want to be a trainer.
I love it. Honest.
I was so concerned that, and I was at first, I was like poor for like 2 years.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough. And then I started making kind of what a doctor makes, and then it just really snowballed. And, if somebody asked me now, like we say performance coach, but really my true title is business owner.
Yep.
And then probably influencer, which I say so tongue-in-cheek.
Which is a word we don't really say.
Honors is so tongue-in-cheek.
No one wants to say that
so
word.
Tongue-in-cheek. The only people who want to say influencer are the people who shouldn't be saying it.
Yep, exactly.
That's like the people who really are ruining the planet. But I think I'm those first two things first before I am. But I eventually realized like this really is my calling and this really is my life's work. Like this is my contribution to the world, which is again why I'm able to take this so seriously, even if I don't know you from a hole in the wall. Even if I just met you, this is what I'm contributing to the world. So if you want to be involved in it, you'd better take it as seriously as I am as well. And again, you're just incidental when I first meet you. It's not about you, it's about the goal itself. So if you don't want to do it, I don't really get that caught up in it because there's 3 other people who are willing to do it, who can replace you. And incidentally, I'm still going to achieve what I'm really trying to do, which is fitness.
Yeah.
And then along the way, though, of course, I build that bond and that relationship.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing is in terms of like executive level clientele versus everyday people. Here's just the truth. Part of being successful in life at anything, I don't care who you are, there's a little luck. Yeah. And then sometimes there's a lot of luck. Like some people just get very lucky. I've met people who are very rich and their parents are rich and that's why they're rich. I've met people who are very rich because they got lucky on something fell in their lap, right? And then you've met people who've really worked for it and really grinded for it. And you can usually tell the difference. It doesn't mean one's good or one's bad, but, and so when you're looking at the difference between everyday people and that, I would just say I ended up with this level of clientele because luckily,
Yeah.
I stumbled into an Equinox in Mamaroneck, New York,
Yep.
and Mamaroneck, New York, and Larchmont, New York are right by each other. I don't know this year, I didn't see the statistics for 2024, but in 2023, I believe Larchmont was the seventh wealthiest town
Yeah.
in the United States of America. It's next to Scarsdale, which
Yep.
is the second wealthiest town in the United States of America. The average income in Scarsdale is $498,000 household income. That's the average, which is pulled down by like apartments and things like that.
Yeah.
I only bother to say all this is that I just stumbled into a really wealthy area and was too stupid to know that I did. And I always tell people I could have been the best trainer in Yonkers or Mount Vernon.
You just missed it by
Yeah.
a couple towns.
But I'd still be broke. I'd still be broke. But I didn't. I became the best trainer there. And then, from that, people pushed me to do social media and things like that. So it grew. When you're looking at everyday people, like just your run-of-the-mill people versus I've worked with the CFO of BlackRock. I've worked with the CEO of AIG.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with one of the guys who was a guest on Shark Tank.
Sure.
Some really, really, really big players. I've worked with at least 5 billionaires, like legitimate billionaires, like people who own sports teams.
Yep.
One of the guys I'm going to see tomorrow at 8 is part owner of the Yankees.
Yeah.
Just people who own private jets, people who own boats, these sort of things. The number one thing you need to understand is they are killers.
Yeah.
They all have it in them.
Yeah.
And that today, for whatever reason, and by today I mean June, the 26th, 2024, the biggest flex out there is being in shape. There are more millionaires than there's ever been, but only 2% of the population have abs.
Yeah.
And so when I went back and I said it in the locker room, people always compliment me. It's because I have something that's very aspirational right now. And not everybody wants to be as big as I am, but they want to have a leanness or a profile that is taken seriously. And there is something about looking this way that speaks to integrity.
Yeah.
Somebody like me, I'm probably pretty good about keeping appointments.
Yeah.
I'm probably pretty good about being on time.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that right now is very aspirational and everybody wants.
Yeah.
So the people I have in, they're very serious about it, but at the same time, they're very tight on a schedule.
Yeah.
And so all I realized was I need to offer accountability.
Yeah.
I need to offer white glove service.
Yeah.
Meaning I don't tell somebody go get the supplement. They get sent the Amazon link.
Yeah.
And they just click a button.
Yeah.
I don't tell somebody, here's, do a pull down, do this. I send them a link to the app and it's already built out for them. And that doesn't mean that I'm building out the app. I have someone on my team who does it at this point.
Yeah.
But the point is that they're getting—
You're going that mile.
Exactly. And then we have a coaching program and I have 2 people on staff who help me run this coaching program, and really more I help them run it. And we get person after person to churn out, and clientele get a custom food template. They get daily check-ins and accountability. We have weigh-ins Monday and Friday. They get no nonsense bullshit. And sometimes we talk on the phone. We have somebody who just started. She's an in-person client, and I was like, you just let me, when I see her in person, be the bad cop. I want you to be a little bit more the good cop. So one of us hits them low, one of them hits them high, and our goal is really to get the person from point A to point B. But the people I'm dealing with, they have very busy lives, but also very good lives.
I love the way that you put it, because the truth is, someone like you, in meeting you now in person for a little bit and just following you over the last couple of years, I do expect it, right? And when I think about a lot of the high performers that we've had on the show, they've never said it as eloquently as you did. But the truth is that it's expected out of them, right? Like if you are, and you defined yourself as a business owner, and a lot of these people are business owners, that's the expectations. You're going to carry yourself like this, then the expectation is that you're going to deliver.
I'll tell you a funny story because it's not PC, so I hope
Go
you
for it.
indulge me.
No.
So I said something for the website copy about how if you don't look a certain way, if you're overweight, you'll be treated differently. It wasn't exactly this, but it was something like, that people, first impressions are important and how you look is taken. And Allie actually came back to me and said, I don't know if you want to keep that or whatever. And I don't want to get into too much details about her life. But there was someone, she hadn't met them, it was virtual, and she ended up meeting the person in person. And the person was very overweight. And she said the minute she met you, she said, I thought differently of them. And she's like, I realized what you put in the copy was accurate. Look, South Park just did an amazing miniseries called The End of Obesity.
Yeah.
And its premise was for people, and I'm not trying to sound elitist.
Yeah.
But the concept was poor people have Lizzo, they have body positivity,
Yeah.
and wealthy people have Ozempic.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant concept. It's a brilliant concept.
Gotta love South Park.
Gotta love it. And I'm not saying that. That's
yeah.
not what I'm saying. But I am saying what they're saying is true.
Yeah.
Which is wealthy people, they understand that they are perceived a certain way. I mean, look,
Yeah.
when you accept certain dark truths, like I'm like 6'2".
Yep.
If I was 6'3" and all other variables remain constant, I would be more liked.
Yeah.
I'm 6'2", if I was 6'4" and all other variables, everything else about me remained exactly the same, I would be more attractive to women.
Yeah.
I would be more impressive to men.
Yeah.
I would captivate the room. That's just the truth.
Yep.
Now, you can't do anything about those 2 inches that I
Yep.
just mentioned, but you certainly can do something about the inches on your waist.
Yep.
So as soon as you start accepting those aspects to life, I think you'll be more open to doing what you have to make those changes.
Absolutely. One of the things I've loved about this conversation so far is you're truly calling it like it is. Like everything that you're saying is authentic from the heart and from the brain. And that's something that we're going to go into. We talked about this a little bit before the show started, and I'm going to walk the audience through how you built up all your knowledge about this. Mm-hmm. Before we go there, I do want to ask one other question about your personal journey. Mm-hmm. And that question is, talk to me about some of your failures along this path.
Oh my God.
Whether it's professionally or in the gym even.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that my life really was like very much taking off relative to where I was born. I started community college classes when I was 16 years old. I had an associate's degree early, which is not, listen, I know it's a community college, so just, calm down, but at the same time though, the first college class I ever took was public speaking, which clearly served me well for later in life.
Yep.
And, I just was really on the right trajectory. I got into a good university. It's albeit a state school, but what do they call it? The Harvard of state schools?
That's right. That's right. The Harvard of the SUNYs. SUNY Geneseo, everybody. Look it up. You got 2 of the most well-known grads right here on this stage. Nobody anywhere knows us. Well, they know Jacob, but yeah, go ahead.
But in all sincerity, it was a very good school, and especially for me, I didn't have it. There was nothing backing me. So I was really on the right trajectory, and I would say I got out of school, and I probably didn't. Even though I got a bachelor's in science, and I took research methods 1 and 2, which I took very seriously, and I took. I didn't graduate with a bad GPA. I think I graduated with a 3.4.
Yeah.
But I could have taken school a little bit more seriously, and I definitely could have got an internship or done better things like that. And I got out of school, and I like I said, I didn't want to be a trainer. I didn't want to be poor, even though that was what I was really interested in. And I was in great shape all throughout school. I got into the real world, and I just really struggled. And I happened to meet somebody who was still at SUNY Geneseo. Yeah. We started dating, and I was still wild. I really was. I really had some social things that I had to work out of myself. I had some personality things that I had to work out, and I was struggling to get my career off the ground. And I think that's pretty common with entrepreneurs. Yeah. It's a very common story. You're better off working for yourself. Yeah. And then because I was a little wild and because I was struggling with my career, Allie and I went separate ways, and that was really, really devastating for me. I really felt like we were supposed to be together. And I know people say that, but even when I was at a wedding with friends from college this past weekend, and one of my friends literally said that, because we were back together, and he said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody take a breakup that badly. Or is that upset about a breakup as he was. And the friend who said that, he's a radiologist, and he does not, we laugh together, but when he says stuff like that, he might say it very mellow-tone, but he's not a jokey guy. He's being serious when he says that. Yeah. And so, I think that for me, I think it just really took a lot of wind out of my sails, not to put on anyone else. It was my responsibility. I'd say it's 70% my fault with that, but then between that and not getting your career right, there is just something when you grow up poor. Poverty is, with the exception of disease, is disease, starvation, it is the worst thing. And I know not everybody can relate to that comment, but I mean, you'd rather, obviously being really sick, like health is worse. Obviously not being able to feed yourself, but that can be a product of not having money, obviously. But outside of that, I mean, not having money, I'm going to say something ridiculous, but there's an Eminem quote, and it says, all the pain of my that I can't get by with my 9 to 5 is amplified by the fact I can't afford these diapers. Like, it's just so true that look, you can be having a bad day, but when you are fucking worried about your bank account, or you can't afford to go on a date, or any of these other things, it makes everything worse. I say that to just say, when you don't have those things going for you, it makes it so much harder. I understand, like, being born in the wrong spot.
Sure.
I understand, like, my sister's disabled. Like, being disabled is just, I don't even believe in the word fair, but it's the most unfair thing there is. But outside of that, get your ass to work.
Thank you for opening up about that. We could sit here all day and kind of continue to dive deeper. I want to make sure that we call out the fact that one thing that stands out about you is, unlike a lot of other people in your space, you know a lot about a lot.
Yeah.
And that's really, really uncommon.
Thank you.
And we were kind of talking about this before, and just so the audience has a little bit of insight, when did that 14-year-old start to go beyond just, wanting to enhance their performance, looking around, seeing the girl, bench pressing, to all of a sudden wanting to actually learn the mechanics of what is going on with your body?
Very quickly. I had work ethic. I really did get that from my stepdad. And I had a mom who was very inquisitive. And so maybe I can give them, or maybe I get to take the credit for it. But I remember I was working out, and I was working out with Chris Tom, and he had all these bodybuilding magazines, and he showed me Ronnie Coleman's leg workout. And I think it was like 28 sets of legs. And I was like, yeah, but dude, we're not Ronnie Coleman. I was like, I know there's so many people who fall for marketing. I am so wired.
I do, by the way. But
you fall for marketing?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I'm the guy that's purchasing stuff on Instagram.
Allie is so bad about it. She's so, I am the opposite, dude. I am the literal opposite. I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, we're not Ronnie Coleman. We don't need to do 28 sets of stuff. I don't need to do 6 sets of squats, 4 sets of leg press, 4 sets of leg, whatever, 4 sets of lunge, and then start hamstring. Like, it was the most ridiculous thing ever. So very quickly I started to, and then combine that with, I'm 41 now. CompuServe was coming out and all that dial-up shit. And so I was able to get on the internet.
Yep.
And it came over time, but I first really found T Nation.
Yep.
And then I started going to school, and I got that bachelor's in science. And then through, I don't remember what it was, but I think it was on a forum, I found John Meadows.
Yep.
And do you know who that is?
No.
It was one of the original, like, fitness Instagram guys. One of the first people to have, like, a successful coaching business.
Sure.
Really understood it. And I found John Meadows. And through him, he talked about a researcher way before people were like, now it's very in fitness to talk to researchers. But he introduced me to a gentleman by the name of Brad Schoenfield, who happens to be here in Westchester. Yep. And Brad Schoenfield is like the foremost expert in the world in building muscle, known as hypertrophy. So I started following his research and literature, and then finding people that he also recommended. And that network has just expanded over time to finding about like Brett Contreras, and finding Lane Norton and Alan Aragon, and just go on and on and on. And, at this point, I would say that content, actually, because I shoot so much content, and I take it very seriously, anything we produce, I spend a lot of time learning just for the sake of content.
Yeah.
And even dialing down, like, there's topics I have a understanding of, but I'm not afraid to go learn more of it. Like, we had John Baker, I did a little interview with him. He's an expert on microbiome. Yep. And just how little I really, now, mind you, do I know more than, I don't know. Well, I mean, there's
so much to know.
There's so much to know.
But so much to know about
But if you
microbiome.
pulled me and a normal person, I know astronomical more about.
Yeah.
But I talked to him, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this is when you understand. There's something called Donning-Kruger.
Okay.
And Donning-Kruger says, if you don't know a lot about something, if you don't know anything about something, you feel very unconfident.
Yep.
If you know a little bit about something, you feel very confident.
Yep.
And as you start to learn more, then you start to get confident again.
Yeah.
So I had that conversation with him, and I was like, oh, I feel very unconfident about this subject. Thankfully, I already told people, like, a lot of times my answer to people about microbiome is, we're 10 to 20 years away from understanding this.
So, since you brought up microbiome, one of the things I want to do on this episode specifically is educate some of the audience, because we don't really ever have someone such as yourself who's really touched on all these topics. Talk to me about probiotics and how you go about getting your probiotic intake and what's your philosophy there.
So the difficult thing is that probiotics aren't actually recommended for everybody. There are actually specific probiotics that you want to take depending on what you're going through. So there's specific probiotics that you should take for cholesterol, or there's specific probiotics if you have chronic diarrhea, or if you're getting off something like if you're on something like amoxicillin and you're getting off of it, sometimes that can cause you to have diarrhea or digestive issues, and then you would go and take a probiotic. So for my actual self, here are 4 things that I do for gut health, and this is the one thing when people really get down to it and listen to me, they're kind of like, oh, that's it? That's all I have to do? But these are the major things I would do. 1, keep your body weight in a healthy spot. BMI is still relevant. People hate to hear it, but it is. If you're larger and you're like, oh, I just have a lot of muscle, that's why my BMI is high. Okay, good. Can you look in the mirror? Can you see definition in your stomach? Okay, you can't, then BMI still applies to you. Because if you have an elevated BMI, which I do, you need to be about sub 15% body fat for it to even matter. Otherwise, it's just too much weight in your body. So BMI, being in a great place, number 1. 2, are you exercising on a regular basis? Okay, 3, are you eating fiber? And then 4, watching for refined sugar. And refined sugar, but outside of diabetes and gut health, if you equate sugar to calories, it does not have an increase in obesity. So people think sugar is going to make you fat. That's not really the concern. Sugar you need to be mindful of because of diabetes, but it also does affect gut health. So those are 4 real takeaways that I would give you for gut health.
If you know me, you know that I like to look good and feel good. As an endurance athlete who trains daily, I need my wardrobe to fit the mold. Roan creates performance-driven clothing for your active lifestyle. Each piece is designed for versatility and made with integrity to outfit you for an active life lived on your own terms. The Roan promise is to help you move forever forward. Use code MILE40 for 20% off online and in-store for new customers only. Visit www.rhone.com, that's Rhone spelled RHONE, or find your local store and move forever forward starting today.
Well, to that point, one of the things I really like about your content is that you really do simplify things, right? People like to overcomplicate all these matters.
So crazy.
I think you posted recently about some of your favorite workouts, right? And it was like, a deadlift, a squat, and I'm forgetting what the third one was. If you want to throw in.
So I said, what are the 4 most functional movements? And it was squat, deadlift, pull up, and overhead carry.
And I'm watching that video, and it just kind of reminded me, like, as a runner, it's lunges and squats all the time, right? Because those are the muscles that I want to make sure I'm strength training all the time. And a lot of times we overcomplicate our approach when it comes to what we expect someone like you to say.
I would tell you, if you're a runner, some sort of unilateral pattern. Okay, like that's a Bulgarian split squat, but lower body unilateral pattern. Bulgarian split squat, a lunge, a front foot elevated split squat, any of those split squats, by the way. But pick one and then get better at it for a matter of weeks. A hinge pattern. That could be a deadlift, that could be an RDL, that could be a good morning, that could be a rounded back extension. There are plenty of them. Something for anti-rotation, like a peel-off press or something like that, very important. And then some sort of abduction where the knee travels away from the hip, so like band walks or even machine abductor. Sometimes people call it bad girl, where you pull your knees apart, something like that. Those are 4 very basic movements that you as a runner should, and something for your lats too, especially if you're a runner in the sense of like a sprinter. You want to work on something for your lats and work on your pelvic stability. Lower abdominals, leg raises are an example. Strengthen your hip flexor. There's exercises for that. And work on your thoracic mobility, your ability to rotate through your midspine.
Yeah. Now like I got all these questions. I'm just imagining if I were to walk into your office as a client and I'd give you the laundry list of things I'm trying to accomplish. I'm wondering what you'd throw at me.
You can always text me.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I don't know which number I have. I don't know if I have the number.
You have,
He's got two phones. I don't think I have a good phone.
You've got the other one.
Yeah, I got the other phone. But we'll work our way up there. But again, for the sake of simplification now, what are some things that you always have in your fridge?
Yeah, so I always have raspberries.
Okay.
I always have blueberries.
Okay.
I don't want to get too mechanistic, meaning just like what's the mechanism, but the simple reason is in terms of like mechanism, like blueberries help with intelligence. There's some evidence. That's like kind of a mechanistic feeling on it, but like without even getting into that, both of those high in fiber, high in antioxidants, polyphenols, very, very important. So antioxidants your body produces as you go through life, whether you're working out even, when you're dealing with stress, when you're eating food and turning into energy, your body oxidates these free radicals and you need to have something like an antioxidant to help prevent those free radicals, like to neutralize them. So antioxidants are incredibly important. They also are very high in micronutrients. So I always have raspberries, I always have blueberries. Those are the two fruits that I have the most of. I also always have some sort of citrus because those are so chock full of antioxidants in particular. A little less fiber, but just crazy antioxidant profile. So sometimes grapefruit, sometimes oranges, but some sort of citrus fruit. Blueberries, raspberries, some sort of citrus fruit. A technical other fruit, I always have avocado. Avocado is high in calorie, so just, especially if you're trying to lose weight, just be mindful of the portion size. But I mean, when you're talking about like a monounsaturated fat, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fat, just incredible fat profile, also high in fiber, really important to have.
I just got to ask you really quick. So someone like yourself, what serving size would you have for an avocado?
For me, of an avocado,
Yeah.
I'd have closer to like a cup every single day. And it's just really important to like measure out where that portion is, but you can't have too much avocado. You can have too many calories, but you can't have too much avocado. I mean, you could give me an argument to say like, if you need to fill in some calories, have walnuts or avocados with the extra calories you have left over, right? Depending on your goals. Like if you're a runner, you need carbohydrates, but just as a general health thing, like
because we were talking about Supergut and they really promote avocado and Supergut. And when I do have an avocado in the morning with my eggs, I try to take a whole avocado on my own.
But that's a generic term, right? Not all avocados are the same, just like not all bananas are the same. So just, you don't have an issue with weight, but if you did, you want to quantitate that. But so those are four, let's say walnuts, that's a fifth for the same reason I just said. Another one, that omega-3s, crazy omega-3s, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats. Those would be kind of like my vegetable or my fruit and some fat sources. Olives, that's another like fat source. I'm putting like avocado and walnuts and olives, fat sources, insanely good for you. So now we've got fat and fruit. Broccoli, I think it's the king of all vegetables. That whole generic thing about eating a multitude of colors, it's really true because they have different antioxidants and different micronutrient profiles. So I either have broccoli or asparagus at all times, but I would go with broccoli number one as a vegetable. I have some sort of leafy green. Typically I like spinach. Not a big kale guy. So I have spinach. It's just very easy. I'll have a big salad of that when I get through the door every day. Very easy to like fill yourself up on. I put some like lemon over top of it. I'll put some anchovies on it. Anchovies, I always have. Anchovies or salmon, something that's really high. Pardon me, when I said omega-3s, I mean omega-6s. Walnuts are very high in omega-6s. Talking about omega-3s, I have something like anchovies, salmon. Very important that you, at least 2-3 times a week, that you eat something that's very high in omega-3s, like salmon, anchovies, tuna, something like this. And then I think those are really the most essential, but I'm also going to have some sort of protein in there. So, besides the salmon or the anchovies that obviously have protein, probably my most common source of protein for me is chicken, some sort of chicken thigh, but whatever lean protein option that you want, have something in there. And then I also always keep Greek yogurt. not just because of the probiotics, but also because I really think it's very hard to hit your protein goal every day without either Greek yogurt or a protein bar or whey protein. Like,
fair enough.
That's like the filler one that I do. Like, so typically most days I've been doing this so long. I'm kind of over protein bar. There's nothing wrong with protein bars, but I'm kind of over having them, and I'm definitely over like most whey protein. I don't have a desire to throw them in a scooper.
A lot of things I want to say. First of all, the fact that you didn't start with protein, I'm sure a lot of people listening, including myself
shocked,
in person,
right?
shocked, right? He started with his fruits and then he went into his vegetables, right?
Thin fats.
And talk to me, is there a reason you started there?
Because I think, look, protein's incredibly important. It's probably the most important micronutrient.
Yep.
Having said that, the majority of my diet is actually carbohydrates, and they're coming from fruit, vegetables, and fat sources. And people are just look, protein's incredibly important. But if you said to me, would I rather do the carnivore diet or be a vegetarian, I would pick a vegetarian.
Yep.
If I had to, I would not pick either of those, by the way. I have a deep love for meat. I also ironically have a deep love for animals, but I just think you need to treat animals okay outside of protein. And even when you're getting protein from them, be kind. But I would pick vegetarian over that. And I think that's the biggest message. When people come up to me and they're like, hey, can you talk for me a second? I'm like, here's 3 takeaways. And the VO2 max is always one of the takeaways, and fiber is always one of the takeaways, and then sleep. Those are my biggest takeaways for human beings. If you came up to me and talked to me, protein would not be one of my takeaways. It would be sleep, it would be fiber, and it would be sleep, fiber, and VO2 max.
Let's talk about VO2 max. So I'm a big marathon runner.
Yeah.
I've improved my time significantly over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
My VO2 max performance was horrible.
Oh no, what was it?
It was. I'd have to kind of pull it up.
You
It was really bad.
You blocked it out.
I blocked it out essentially.
You're supposed to talk about your VO2 max,
and
let everybody know how great you are.
Yeah, and I was pretty embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
Because I went into the PT's office, right? He knew my accomplishments as a marathon runner, and the anticipation was this shouldn't be bad. Like maybe it's not going to be the best, but it shouldn't be bad. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But my
resting
heart rate is great.
In the 40s?
Probably right around there.
Okay.
Yeah, my resting heart rate?
No, your VO2 max.
Oh, VO2 max, probably right around there, yeah.
Yeah, because 30s is like where it gets like, okay, you need to do something about your health.
Yeah.
You're probably in the 40s, and you probably haven't over escalated. You're probably were looking on the higher end of things, and then but you didn't have that. You're like, it's bad.
Yeah.
VO2 max is your number one indicator of longevity.
Yeah.
So it's very important. You don't have to have a superior VO2 max to live a long life, but it helps.
Yeah.
And certainly for you probably have great cardiovascular health.
Yep.
You just happen to genetically, like we talked about it, like people confuse all the time, like good genetics, bad genetics. You could have great genetics in one capacity.
Yeah.
You could be brilliant, and you could also have terrible genetics when it comes to building muscle, right? You might just not have the best genetics when it comes to VO2 max.
Yeah.
Right? You might be on the lower side of that 50% or the lower percent side of that 90% because you're probably not having the horrible genetics portion of it, like the bottom 5%, but it's just not great. Number one thing you can do is doing some HIIT for it. Get your heart rate up, take a break, let it come back down, get your heart rate up, take a break, let it come back down. That's typically the recommendation for VO2 max. You have to get up into that zone 5 and things like that.
In your capacity as a performance coach, if you had an athlete who was an endurance athlete, would that still be your recommendation, right? Because is there any sort of contradiction between long distance endurance running and incorporating the HIIT workouts? Yeah,
so I work with people who run, but that's not their primary function when they come to see me. I'm not a running coach. In my own life, I am not a runner. And I have a 53 VO2 max, which puts me in the superior range.
Yeah.
And I say that just to say, I think health comes first and foremost.
Yeah.
So it depends where you're on that spectrum. Like if I really saw your VO2 max and it wasn't good, if you were really like in the 30s, I'd be like, let's put aside running a marathon. You're a father first and foremost. You're a husband first and foremost. So let's get your VO2 max better.
Yeah.
But if it was just like a good or a very good VO2 max and there wasn't going to be any issue with your life expectancy,
Yeah.
then no, we would prioritize what you like to do. I mean, that's always the answer.
Yeah.
But the reason I draw attention to VO2 max is for most of the people I'm dealing with, again, we're back here in Westchester, right now we're in Westport, Connecticut. People around here can go afford to do a $150 test to find their VO2. And not only that, but there's studios all over the place that do them. So go get your VO2 max test looked at, see where you're at. And, again, you can always decide what level of that, what fragment of that percentile you want to be, that 1% or 5%, but just make sure it's at least in a good spot, like in a real good, not like the kind of like, oh, it wasn't good. Yours wasn't great.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking at and expecting as a marathon runner.
Yeah.
That's probably fine.
Yeah. No, I like that VO2 max is coming to the forefront. It's becoming more and more a topic people are talking about. I just finished reading Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia.
Yeah, great.
And I mean, these are the things that people need to be talking about right now.
Yeah. I like 90% of his stuff. He actually he did something with his workout stuff. And I was kind of like, these are a little ridiculous. Like he said, I have the farmers carry, I think, half your body weight for 2 minutes. That's an impossible task.
He's a little intense.
Yeah, well, it's not only that. It's just also, too, like, look, I know you need to shoot content. You need to put a lot out there. But are you actually accurate with what your recommendations are? Because if I can't do it, like I just randomly tried it and I got to like 90 seconds. And mind you, I don't deadlift heavy anymore. But I still do RDLs with 130-pound dumbbells in my hands. I don't see anyone else at the gym ever doing that. Like when I go to train, like I have very strong lower body. So I'm holding 130-pound dumbbells, one in each hand, doing RDLs with them. If I can, if I can't do your farmer's test, then and the other thing, part about it was too, was like, okay, well, like yes, but wait to your strength. Your absolute strength increases with size. Your relative strength does not increase. It actually decreases with size. Right? So, women typically have relative, more relative strength than men. So, as an example, let's talk the creme de la creme. The guys who are in the heavyweight class or the highest weight class in Olympic lifting, clearly they lift the most absolute weight. You have people who are literally cleaning over 500 pounds, jerking over 500 pounds, putting that weight over their head. But if you compare them to the females in the lightest class, some of those women are doing like 3 times their body weight, right? And the top guys, the heaviest men, they might weigh 360 pounds, but they're putting 500 pounds over their head. That's nowhere. The relative strength begins to diminish, even though absolute strength still continues. So 90% of his stuff I love, and I love most of what he's putting out there. Is just, again, like VO2 max. It's so good to get the message out there.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is a lot to think about with regards to this. Gonna switch gears a little bit. Has Costco ever reached out to you for a partnership?
Yes. And I've done it.
You've done.
I've done it.
So you've been a Costco partner, or you are a Costco partner?
Costco. I have a couple others. It has to be wins for 3 people. It has to be a win for clients, the people who are watching the content. It has to be a win for me, and it has to be a win for Costco. Example just happened recently. Sisu Sauna and I did a deal. We have a beautiful sauna now at our house, and I've been talking about saunas for 3 years and the health benefits of them. I truly believe in them. And so guess what? I get to give some really great content to my clientele. I get a free sauna. And I get to help a guy who actually came to know and really like Peter help grow his business. So in those cases, I will do it. I actually, just after we get done here today, I have to film something for a generic ED company. I did a post about ED, about Viagra versus Cialis, and talking about it briefly. And they reached out to me, and they're paying me to do it. And they have, that you don't have to pay for this prescription. It's all telehealth. You just fill out the application, they review it, and it's generic, so it's cheaper. And great. I think it's really important that men don't feel stigma about hair loss, about erectile dysfunction, about a number of things. So I'm on board for this.
Awesome.
Yeah, very rare though, very rare. So many no's you wouldn't believe.
No, I can only imagine. I asked about Costco because I feel like your name's now become synonymous with it. In a positive way, of course, right?
Yeah, I have a good relationship with Costco and Wegmans.
Yeah,
and a growing relationship with Sam's Club.
Especially, people in our demographic, older millennials, people with family. We're in Costco all the time. Right? And we're always looking for the healthiest options. We are looking for protein packed
Yeah.
options. Most of us can't tell the difference between protein bars outside of the protein label,
Yeah.
right? Like, either 15 grams or 20 grams.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that myself. Even when
It's funny, you were talking earlier and you said like you've kind of became a name in fitness.
Yeah.
I've seen like in the last month, like 3 posts
Yeah.
talking about what constitutes something being a good source of protein.
Yeah.
And people are taking what I've referred to as the protein test,
Yeah.
10 grams of protein per every 100 calories. Look at a label, say it says 20 grams of protein. You look at it, it has to have at least 200 calories or less.
Yeah.
You just add a 0 to the protein on that label.
Yeah.
Does it have that many calories or less? And I've seen people on the internet start to take it. I'm like, all right. I'm like, this is completely a construct. So I know you had to have got this some way or another from me. So.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like you're a major influence. I'm not going to call you an influencer.
Yes.
We know that word, but you are a major influence.
I ripped on somebody's cookie. They said they had a high protein cookie and she's a big name in the fitness industry. And, she didn't say anything. She just kept quiet, but she deserved to be ripped on about it. And I didn't mention her in it, but I just mentioned how the product was not, the thing had 6 grams of protein.
Sure.
And she was calling it high protein. And I noticed she put on her book, she started doing restaurant content, like how to eat out to restaurants. And she did a restaurant ebook. And I was like, all right. I was like, I see you. I was like, good on you. I ripped on you. And then you went on my website and checked out what I do. And you thought I had some good ideas.
I love it. Another piece of content that I recently saw, and we can edit this out if you'd like, but I think it's very interesting, was your take on AG1.
Yeah.
You shared your take recently.
No, you don't have to edit it out.
It's obviously, super popular. A lot of people do it.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah, you called it out.
It's bullshit.
Talk to us about it.
I tried twice for this video to get a lot of plays. The second time did well, but the first time I really went through why it's nonsense.
Okay.
People assume because it's an ingredient. It's not. They say this all the time in the fitness industry now, but it's not the poison, it's the dosage, right? So as an example, creatine. That's probably the most scientifically established supplement. It's probably the most recognized supplement. For most guys, and it's weight dependent, they need about 5 grams of creatine a day. Okay. Most women need 3 grams of creatine a day. Okay, so if that's the effective dose, that's the effective dose, right? What happens if you take 2 grams of creatine a day? Is it effective?
Probably not.
It's the effective dose is 5 grams. If you take 2 grams a day, is it effective?
No.
So what happens with the AG1 is that it's the gram, the scoop itself only has so many grams. And things are put in there and they break these down into powder form and they put it in there. They can only fit so much in that scoop. So, and they have 70 ingredients. So they have 70 ingredients all at ineffective dosages. So as an example, antioxidants. I'm kind of pulling this out of my pocket, but I'm around the right numbers. I want to say, not exact, but somewhere around 3,500 antioxidants, 3,500 milligrams of antioxidants. Now, can I talk about what you do for a living?
Sure. Yeah.
You work at Salesforce.
Work at Salesforce.
You have
Run
a
this podcast. I've published 2 books.
You published 2 books.
Yep.
You have a child.
I have a child and another on the way.
Another on the way.
And I'm always training, marathon training.
You're marathon training, and you're married.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I ask you this, there should be no shame in the answer. 3,500 milligrams. Is that a lot of milligrams of antioxidants? How would you know?
How would
you know?
No idea.
How would you know? And how would everybody else listening to this podcast
No idea.
know? You have no fucking idea. A cup of blueberries has 13,000.
Jesus. Yeah, would have had no idea.
You had no idea. It has less than 1/3 in that entire scoop. So you're taking that thinking it's replacing fruit and vegetables. It's not fucking replacing fruit and vegetables. And so that's really it. By the way, they're not evil.
No,
they're not evil.
I didn't get the sense that you were suggesting they were evil.
It's just look, you cannot give people this message that you don't need to take fruit. Like, oh, it's green, so now I've taken my vegetables for the day. No, you fucking haven't. No, you fucking haven't. It doesn't have fiber in it. It has a pitiful amount of antioxidants, and most of the other ingredients that are included in there, I believe it has ashwagandha or something along those lines. They're pitifully low. You still need to take other pills on top of it, so it's not even worth taking. And God bless everybody for making money on it. I've even heard people say, well, Andrew Huberman's done it. Okay, well, I get it, but I get that he sponsors it and he's great. He puts out a lot of great content. He also puts out some nonsense content that's very mechanistic, that doesn't make any sense. And he puts out not a ton of content that you're never going to be able to apply to your life.
Yeah.
By example, wake up and get sun in your eyes. Okay, go. I'm at work at 6 o'clock. I'm a 1%er, and I'm at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have a pretty good life, and I can only do that I can only do that Saturday and Sunday. So great
No,
advice.
fair enough. And like, this is not a knock against AG1 because they have yet to sponsor Mile 40. And look, I'll be honest, I do have AG1, which is what made me listen to it. And I'm a big fan of yours.
You're better off.
But you know more about it than
You're better off taking creatine.
Yeah.
You're better off checking your vitamin D.
Yeah.
You're better off checking your omega-3 index, taking fish oil. You're better off taking magnesium glycinate or one of the salt forms of magnesium. And you are better off, that's eating fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
And that's it. So if you were to tell me to allocate, and I know you're not financially strapped, but there are people who go out and buy these things, and you're better off taking those things rather than spending your money on.
That's awesome. That's a really good takeaway.
That's it.
That's a really, really good takeaway. We touched on so many topics.
By the way, another one is collagen. Like collagen, great for skin, great for hair, nails, may be great for joint and tendons. We're not sure. But do not take fucking collagen because you think it's going to. Do not take it if you think it's going to help with building muscle.
Oh no,
it does not. It does not. No. But that was commonly thought, and you will be surprised how many I talked about.
No, hair, skin, and nails. Like
hair, skin, and nails, potentially joints and tendons, potentially ligaments and tendons. But even within that, okay, you'd be surprised how many protein bars you'll pull up now. I used to do a lot for Built. I really like Built. It's still my favorite protein bar, even though right now I've been eating a lot of legendary Pop-Tarts.
I saw you share Built the other day.
Yeah, I love Built. But I specifically said in that post, don't have puffs.
Yeah.
And I should have said why, even though the post crushed it.
That,
even though the post crushed it. It's because it has collagen protein in it. It's a hydrolyzed collagen. So what a lot of food scientists are doing now is they're using collagen because it cooks better. So when you take whey and you cook whey, especially like high concentration of whey to get like the protein up, the food becomes very like chalky.
Yeah.
So, but collagen doesn't. So collagen has like a delicious taste that you can put in that food, but it's not effective for muscle protein synthesis.
Got it.
You hear people talk about like, how much protein can you absorb? You can absorb all the protein you eat. What do I mean by that? Because what's the primary mechanism of protein? Glucose. Yeah. It breaks down to glucose first and foremost. Then a secondary mechanism of it is muscle protein synthesis. But you can't utilize an inexhaustible amount for muscle protein synthesis. I know it sounds like a technicality, but all protein can be absorbed. It just can't all be utilized to build muscle. At some point, it becomes superfluous, unnecessary to have more protein. It won't help you build muscle. There's some context to the exact amount you need, but just be clear, like you always absorb protein. And I say that again to just be clear about like, it's not just eating protein, it's eating protein that causes muscle protein synthesis. Collagen does not.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too technical what I just said, but.
No, this is great. I'm soaking it all in. And it just makes me think, the wide array of topics that we've talked about and touched on, I feel like you geek out on all these topics.
I do, yeah, I do.
Is there a particular conversation that you really enjoy, when someone says, hey, Jacob, I need your help with this?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I remember I said it's very important to me that when the person comes in, they respect the goal. I was at a friend's wedding this week, and I've talked about that already. It was with college buddies. And one of the parents of the bride or groom, I don't want to say who, but they were drunk, and they came up to me, and they wanted to start talking about supplements. And I was just like, oh my God, get me out of here. Because, I love talking to people who take it seriously, but I don't need to have somebody who's like drunk, wanting to, and who doesn't really care. And like, maybe they do, but like, I like to be compensated for my time, and I'd rather talk about like somebody's kids or cars or
Don't want to talk about work.
I don't want to talk about work. I actually love cars. I would talk to somebody. I talked to a hole in the wall about cars. So, but in terms of like talking to somebody and getting passionate about it, I get very passionate about volume for training. How much volume do you need to build a bicep? What is the proper things that you need to do with it? Because there's such crazy context to that. Like, how many sets do you need? What's the appropriate amount of reps? How close to failure? How do you rate how close you are to failure? What's the proper amount of time frame to wait to train again? How many sets do you need for this particular muscle group? I can get very into the nitty-gritty. I could probably talk about that for 3 hours and enjoy the conversation. And I listen to so much content around that stuff. Right now we have something called lengthened partials that people are talking about. So like if I go to curl something and I lengthen my arm, this is the lengthened portion of the movement, and that's very beneficial as opposed to this is the mid-range and this is the shortened range. Okay. The same is true if I go to row something. This is the lengthened range this is the mid-range, and this is the shortened range. And what we know is that lengthening, that stretching position, so right now I'm rowing, that lengthen actually signals a lot of building muscle. Wow. And so we didn't realize that, but the stretch during lifting may be one of the most important aspects to training and to actually building muscle. So all of the stuff within that like realm of like stimulus that's needed, which interestingly enough, I consider that to a lesser degree my specialty. Sure. Like I definitely know how to put people on, but people don't seem to love my exercise content as much as they do my nutrition content. So I do, that's really what
it is. First of all, I like both, but your nutrition content, again, seeing you in front of a shopping cart at Costco, you can tell that there's probably a part of you that's a little bit uncomfortable doing that.
Yes.
And that's what really brings the people in. Whereas at a gym, you're in your domain.
This is probably
You're
true.
in your domain, man. Like you own that place. Like, everyone knows that you know what you're talking about and you're super comfortable. So it's not as entertaining, but it's knowledgeable.
That's a really great perspective because I will tell you, when I go on like a newscast, like let's say I'm on like CNN, I'm on Fox, I've even been local news, it's so easy. I mean, it's just like you just flirt with the person for 30 minutes and like talk about relevant stuff for 20 minutes or whatever it is. It's and when you're at the gym, it's a little harder because there might be stuff going on around you. It's very hard. It's very hard to shoot grocery store content. And I do think—
I can imagine. I don't know how you're doing it. I feel like you're pulling off to the side.
I am. I'm waiting. I'm managing the person coming in and all that stuff. We shot at Costco yesterday. Yeah. We shot some really cool reels. And like some of them you can like one take and then, but you also have to keep in mind, like, you're the one who's out of whack. Even if I have the permission of the store to shoot, we still go in off hours. We're told specifically, like, avoid the client. I don't ever be like, excuse me, we're shooting. Yeah. I let the person roll through. Like if we're sitting there and like my camera guy will be like right in front of me and I'll be like, let these people pass, like, and even the other day there was a mom who was like struggling with this, at Costco, they have those huge carts.
Yeah, the huge carts.
She's struggling with the huge cart. I'm like, Monty, move forward so the lady can get past. So
that's so funny. You brought up the wedding, so I just want to ask, especially given our history at Geneseo. Geneseo is known to serve a beer or two. What's your relationship with alcohol?
These days, I almost never drink. I was in Greece. I went on a wine tour. We had a driver. I had a blast. I drank. The wedding, I drank, and I still have to learn, that old saying, one's too many, three's not enough. Yeah. I drank a little too much, and it's funny, even driving here, I was like, today's Wednesday. This was a Saturday I drank. I've been going to bed like the last couple of nights at like 8 o'clock at night, like very early. Yeah. I have a totally non-existent relationship with alcohol. Yeah. I almost never drink. I would say in the entire year, up until, let's exclude Greece and the wedding, I don't even know if I had 2 drinks. Yeah. I'm not into how I feel afterwards and doing it. And I think even now, like after my wedding experience, I will say that the most drinks I'll even have at a wedding is 3 drinks. Yeah. So, but I know that sounds like, but I am very like, look, I'll take half an edible. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'll be a good time. And, but yeah, I'm pretty much done with alcohol. Yeah,
no, it's a topic that's come up several times on this show. I gave up alcohol 18 months ago.
Yeah.
For training purposes.
Yes.
It just couldn't do it. Like I knew I wasn't going to perform at my peak.
You can't. I got drunk, and mind you, I had too many. But I wasn't hungover the next day. I wasn't sick the next day. We're not talking about stupidity here. We're talking about maybe a little not even irresponsibility. We had a driver the whole 9 yards. So, but I'll tell you. I am sore. And I know that sounds funny, but Sunday, I never missed scheduled workouts. I didn't even miss scheduled workouts in Greece. Yep. I went light while I was in Greece. I only trained 3 days while I was there, but I missed Sunday. I was like, I'm too tired. I can't train. And that's the first time I missed a scheduled training. I think in the last 5 years, I may have missed 3 scheduled days of training, and I missed Sunday. And then Monday, I got back to it. Tuesday, I got into it. Today, I even got into it. But I can tell you, like, I'm still, like, Saturday, I trained push. And I went to train push today, and I was like, I was great. I hit a PR and stuff like that, but I was still like, I'm not 100% myself yet. So you can't do it for performance. You can't do it for health. Yeah. I think that drinking in the next 15 years is going to be viewed like cigarettes. Yeah.
It's going down. It's
Yeah.
going down big time.
Yeah.
The industry for non-alcoholic,
Huge.
beers, huge
Crazy.
right now. It's going nuts.
Crazy.
And there's a lot of adoption and a
Yeah.
lot of buy-in. So I agree with you on that.
I think it's going to be the new cool thing to say too.
I agree. And I think it's getting there. Like it's starting to get there.
It already is. I mean, even just, when I talk to people, it's just, this is so aspirational right now to be in shape. So I just feel like, again, there's more millionaires than ever been.
Yeah.
So if you're already at that point in your life, the only way to separate yourself is to really be, and the guys I work with all day, this is how they separate themselves.
Yeah. As we wrap things up, I got 2 more questions for you. The first one is, you work in a super competitive space. And, as we all know, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And I know, from what I know about you, I don't see you as being someone that's constantly comparing yourself to others. So instead of necessarily putting it that way, let's talk about some of the people who've inspired you in this space. Are there any people in this space that essentially you've looked up to or who have helped you kind of build your approach?
Yeah, so I definitely do not compare myself to anybody. I don't know what it is, but people, someone asked me, do you have like this guy who was growing his PT business, asked me, do you have imposter syndrome? I was like, no. I was like, what? And I was like, and I don't really compare myself. And, I do feel a lot of gratitude where I am in life. I feel an obligation. I have a life that I would, couldn't even imagine as a kid. So I'm very thankful, but I don't look around at other people and think about what they're doing or what's going on with them. And it's even funny too. I actually think it's a very bad trait to even be overly concerned with what other people are doing. I think it takes away. I had a client and she was she struggled on the coaching program. She was seeing me in person and she happened to be only one in there. And usually when I do groups, they're semi-private. And that day she just happened to be the only one in there. And she said to me something along the lines of she said, you must be bored by this. With me training. I said, well, I don't love just working with one person. I like my groups. Yeah. But I was like, fine. And she said something and I go, hi. My assumption is that you're going to be dropping out of this soon. Yeah. Why are you even at all focused on me right now? Yeah. We're in here working out. Yeah. You didn't lose weight. Yeah. You're struggling on the coaching program. You said you didn't have time for it. What are we talking about me for? I have an incredible life. Yeah. I was like, you really concerned about me? Don't be concerned about me. Nobody should be worried about me. And I really mean that. It's there's so many people in the world. So you be worried about yourself. Yeah. And she dropped out a week later anyhow. And I knew she was going to. And like I said, there's always going to be 3 other people that want to do it. But I just knew the mentality was so that you're sitting in a session, I'm kicking your ass and you're worried about if I'm enjoying it. Your head's in the wrong spot. In terms of people I really look up to, Brett Coutreas, I really look up to. He's known as the glute guy. And I think he just has an excellent science-based approach. He also has an excellent marketing approach. And I think he's the perfect synthesis of marketing meets science. He has not sold his soul at all and just really stayed in his lane. Even if there are times where he was growing more than others. I think he has 1 million followers on Instagram, but I've heard him say, a little frustration about the pace he's grown. Yeah. 1 million sounds like a lot, but he's been on here for a while. But I think he's just the perfect synthesis of the two. In terms of personal trainers, not to be rude, but I think I am kind of the bar.
You are the bar.
Yeah, I think there's some guys. There's a couple guys in the country like Gunnar and Saladino and a couple other people like that. But most of them are past being trainers at this point. Either they're working with celebrities only and stuff like that. To me, what I really, really am passionate about and doing, I love doing training with people and working with them, but I really see the industry is very weak. Even though there's a lot of competition, I think so many of these guys, they want to be models. Yeah. Or they want to be, I say all the time, trainers are like waiters. Yeah. This is they're like a bartender. It's like their fill-in job until they find what's next. Most trainers want to be influencers. Yep. Most trainers want to be models or they want to be athletes. They want to be something else. And this is their fallback. So it's very easy to crush because everybody else in the segment is so weak. But in terms of like Breckachers, I think is the perfect example of both. I like Renaissance Periodization, their company. I like a lot of their content that they put out. They put out some very good stuff. And then I follow a lot of research accounts. I follow Brad Schoenfield, who I talked about earlier. I really like his stuff. Oh God, I'm gonna mess up his name. His name's what's his name? I follow him all the time. Mennoulose, I think, something like that. He does a ton of like meta research stuff.
Sure.
Really like his content. So most of the people I'm following at this point are actually people who are doing research or drawing conclusions from the research.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I kind of focus on.
Awesome. I lied. I have one other question for the last question. Is there anyone out there who would be, the type of client that really gets you excited? Meaning, like, my mind was running. I'm like, I wonder what Jacob would be like.
You're going to be so surprised by this
If you were
answer.
out there training someone, not that David Goggins would probably hire a trainer.
No,
maybe he would.
I don't give
But
a
imagine
fuck.
you had David Goggins as a client.
I wouldn't give a fuck. I do not care. I do not care at all. It's good for business, but I don't
But does
give
it
a
jack
shit.
you up to potentially train someone who's like
doesn't-
that?
I don't give a
who's
fuck
got
about
that mindset?
You're going to be so surprised by the answer.
Yeah.
When somebody, so I got on a phone call with a guy, and he said, I do retirements. I kind of only work from 11 to 3 every day. I was like, I'm probably like your other clients. I go, you're rich and you decide your own schedule? And he laughed on the other end. And he goes, something like that. I go, you're like all my clients.
Yeah.
I was like, that is my clientele.
Yeah.
But I say this for a second. Occasionally I'll get on a call and there's one person, she was a dog walker.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, you're going to spend this money each month in your dog walker. Not that there's anything, like that's not a statement, but just look at.
I mean, we all know what the average dog walker makes.
Yes, the average dog walker does not make what the average
Yep.
PE, private equity guy makes. Okay,
Yeah,
so
sure.
when I get on that call, like with certain people, and they call in for the coaching call, I just feel such an obligation. Like I really feel like there's such a part of me that's just like, I really want it for the person, and I've got past the point where I never want it for them more than they want it.
Yeah.
So if they drift off or whatever, that's their problem. Because we have the coaching program so good that if you don't lose weight, it is your fault at this point. We have it so dialed in. Doesn't mean we don't ever make a mistake, but there's like one mistake I can think of in like 6 months. And it was a small one. We shared something on social media. We thought the person was comfortable with that. They were only comfortable with one image. Like very rare. And they still love us because they lost a ton of weight with us, right? So rare that we make any mistakes. So we're so dialed in at this point. So when somebody comes on and they're just like, maybe they went through cancer or they went through a divorce.
Sure.
And I just am on the other phone and I really want it from them.
Yeah.
Or I know this is like a financial, like tough decision for them.
Yeah.
That gets me going. Like David Goggins, great. I'll get more business from it. Cool.
Yeah.
That is not going to get me excited. Like I've worked with influencers. I've worked with TV people.
Well, yeah, that's why. I know you've worked with a lot of fitness enthusiasts and athletes and whatnot. And so like,
it doesn't get me
they bring a certain intensity level.
They bring business.
Yeah.
They're the Ferrari that brings the business. I care about the people that really fucking want this.
I love that.
That's what I care. And I mean that. I would not give a fuck if Matt Damon was like, hey, let's work together. I'm not telling you I wouldn't because I'd make so much fucking money off of it, but that would not excite me personally. I would care more about the woman who's on the call who just survived cancer and was like, I need this to reconnect with myself. That would get me like, let's fucking do this.
I love that.
Right?
That's a beautiful answer. And it kind of answers where my last question was going to go, because my last question was going to say, you've been poor.
Yeah.
And now you're not.
Yeah.
Right? You were that lanky 14-year-old.
So skinny.
Right?
I was so
and
skinny.
Now,
You'd be so shocked. I was so
now
skinny.
you're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
You talk about some of your ups and downs in your relationship.
Yeah.
And, now you're with the love of your life.
Yeah.
When all is said and done,
Yeah.
and you look back on, the full body of work, what do you want that imprint to look like on those who've come across you?
I think the biggest thing in me, I think the most meaningful thing for me has been my relationships, like at a personal level. Allie, my dog, I know it sounds ridiculous, but those have been the most like meaningful things to me. And so I would just say, I really underestimated how important relationships were when I was younger. When I was younger, like, yeah, make money and have muscles and a cool car. And those really aren't what's important. What's really important is like meaningful relationship and connection. Now, going back to, you have to accept some of those dark truths. If I was an inch taller, I'd have more opportunity for meaningful relationships. I always joke, one of my favorite jokes is always, somebody's like, they're talking about something and I'm like, oh, he's taller when he stands on his wallet. Or he's better looking when he stands on his wallet. Like, it's just the truth. If you add another zero to any person or you add another 100,000 to any person, like, everybody looks better like that. So, but I do think outside of like, you have to, like, that is the most important thing, are the relationships that I have up close. But my contribution to the world as a whole, I feel very solid in. And I say that because I see people who are coming out with like the protein test or duplicating my restaurant guides or doing this stuff. I see content that's just clearly came from me that you see everywhere. I mean, I even almost have an existential crisis because there's so many people going to the grocery store now shooting content that's like fear mongering. And I'm like, okay, I know Flav City was the first person to do, Bobby Parrish was the first person to go to a grocery store. Yeah. But did I contribute to like this crap? Like, because, and the crap meaning the fear mongering, not talking about how to shop at a grocery store. But I really do think like I've had a very, very positive contribution. Even Michelle, who works for me, helps run the business, she'll say flat out, she's like, Jake's an asshole, but he's a good man and I'm better because I met him. And like, Allie will say the same thing. She'll be like, Jake's a bit of an asshole, but he helps people. Like, the overwhelming thing that people will say is like, yeah, this guy, is a bit of a jerk, but he makes people better.
Yeah, that reminds me when I texted Allie after we spoke last week to thank her for bringing us together. And she's like, he could be a little much. She goes, I hope he didn't overshare. And I was like, look, what was said between me and him is going to stay there. Because you had one line, which I will not be sharing on the podcast, which I won't be sharing on the podcast, which was incredible, but it was true. It's what I love about you, man. You say it like it is. You come out, you don't hold back. And, there's a lot of sincerity in there.
I think that's why I did so well. So I think I was lucky in the sense that I walked into Equinox Mamaroneck. But I think the fact that I actually told people the truth, and not in the truth in the sense of like, hey, you're eating too much, or like, hey, you're not taking your workouts outside of here seriously. Just nobody had been used to hearing that. Everybody had been used to, especially with the people I was working with, they were used to people kissing their ass. Yeah. I remember I even had somebody say to me after they had worked with me years later, they recommended somebody to me and they said, well, he's a phenomenal, take the personality for what it is. Yeah. And I kind of clapped back a little bit and I said, like, if I didn't have this personality, I wouldn't be who I am. Because everything about this is my ability to say, like, no, that's, like, I see so many trainers and they're sitting there with somebody and somebody's form is incorrect. Yeah. And they don't say a fucking thing to that person. Yeah. Or somebody messaged on coaching and was like, I've worked with multiple coaches now, red flag, and my diet is actually perfect, and for whatever reason, I'm not losing weight. Yeah, okay, because one, you're either tracking inaccurately, you're not tracking your binges, or you're fucking full of shit. And by the way, some of that could be just they need to be help with learning how to track accurately. That could be that they don't mean to be doing it, or two, they're not tracking their binges, and so they're lying. Or three, there's just something else going on and they're simply not sharing it. And so when that person messaged out to us, we already had a wait list on the coaching. I just reached back out to them and just really filled them out. Like, this is what it is and it isn't. There isn't something magical I do. You're not going to hire me and lose weight. Yeah. But people who hire me lose weight all the time because they follow through with what I say and they need somebody who's not going to coddle them and is actually going to be hard on them and is actually going to push them to be better.
Absolutely. No better way to close this out, my man. Jacob, thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on. I forgot that it was my show. Thank you for coming on. Honestly,
well, thanks, Greg, for having us here, because you really did invite us here.
No, but thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing all this. A lot of takeaways, but also lots of bits of inspiration. So
thanks.
I'm grateful. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'd say again, the biggest thing is just don't give up. And by the way, also too, when I say that, like, read the fucking room. Like, if you can't sing, like, you don't need to go on American Idol, but like, if there's potential there, like, I think my life is a tribute to not giving up.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.